All right. So first of all, we've learned this week discussion, dialogue, and relationships. So we've got a bunch of different types of people focused on different things in this room. So I think it's a really good time. If everybody can just go around quickly, just tell us your name and the role or interest in like you have with Clarity. Like what is Clarity? Why are you here? What's the role you play? You guys will see there's a lot of diversity in the room around who does what. I'm Marshall. I work at Parsec. Don't know what my title is, but all day I work on Clarity. And so that's my job, is to help make sure that Clarity is a really great tool for folks. We'll start over here. You guys can work around.
I'm going to let her go first.
Okay.
I'm brand new. I'm going to hear what she says.
I'm Mary. I work for Mariposa County Office of Education and Unified School District. And we're at the Educational Services Department, and we deal with data and all our students' data.
Okay.
And we started with Parsec this year, and we're doing a little bit more.
Awesome. Glad you're here. So I give you a minute now.
I was going to say, so I'm Tracy Lingenfelter, also with Mariposa. I do the same work, but I'm learning from Mary.
Okay, great.
I'm Julia Knight. I'm the executive director of a charter school up in the real Northern California.
Yeah.
And
Which charter?
Northern Summit Academy.
Okay, yeah.
So we've been with
Yeah.
Parsec for years.
Yeah.
I actually don't know what Clarity is.
Great.
I'm just in here to gain more information about how to use our data better.
Love it. Let's scoot over here.
Hi, I'm Melissa. I am with Parsec. So I wanted to also learn a little more about Clarity and how it's going to connect with all the other products I'm building. So I'm actually the county manager of video.
I'm Josh. I'm also with Parsec with the same exact intentions as Melissa here.
Great.
I just want to learn more about Clarity.
Josh just moved into a new office, sitting next to the founder. He's a big deal now. Josh, next to Josh.
Juan Mendoza, software engineer. I work a little bit on Clarity and then just on support functions.
Awesome. Thanks.
I'm Nick, and I'm a product designer, also with Clarity alongside Good morning, everyone. My name is Todd Good. I'm the administrative analyst for Fresno Unified. I work for our data division, which is called AMA, and we're incredibly excited and invested in Clarity as well.
Yeah. They're from a little district, Fresno Unified. A lot of people don't know them. They serve a few kids. No big deal.
Hi, my name is Chris Parachus. I'm the assistant superintendent for Golden Valley, Clear Ranches, and I'm a partner with Parsec for about 4 years. We actually have about 6 children in our school, so we're a great partner, and our daughters do soccer together. So all the soccer stuff is nice, but we're really trying to bring in the Clarity with specifically our LCAP, and I read the LCAP for our district. Powerful.
Great. That's like having the school board chair's kid in your class.
Yeah.
This conference, you're probably like, oh my gosh. Everything about our-
We're fortunate enough to have our kids here right now, which is really
Well,
cool.
at Bobbiton, they will trust a school with his kid. You know you're doing something good, so that's awesome.
So my name is Sarah Marshall. I'm the Assistant Superintendent of Academic Services. That's a long title. I'm in Golden Plains currently, and I am new to Parsec. I'm familiar with a few platforms, but I'm learning Parsec, and I'm falling in love with it every day. But my superintendent used to work in Golden Plains, so he's kind of brought this over. So it's very new to us, and I'm excited to learn more.
Great. Glad you're here.
My name is Godfrey Dungu. I teach at Fresno State. I love data. My research is driven by that, so much I'm interested in what informs of what I do in my teaching. So I don't know about quality, so I thought it would be very nice to know what to do.
Great. Love it.
We have a full table here of people helping build
Okay.
Clarity. Except for me.
And?
Maybe soon. Oh, yeah. I'm the Senior Director of Operations at Visions in Education.
Okay.
So we've been Parsec for a while and just here to learn more.
Awesome.
Especially sitting with other people.
Yeah, just the context there, for all of you that are using the tool or interested in the tool, this is like the size of the team and a bunch of brilliant minds trying to make sure that the software can really fit what you need. So that's pretty cool to see that much interest. If you're looking at the product, that's a lot of brain power trying to make sure it's right. So that's that squad. You good? Is that good? Is it good? Okay, you guys are awesome. This table.
Hi everyone, I'm Matt. I'm the product manager overseeing analytics and clarity, so everything Marshall just said. I work with all those wonderful people as well.
I'm Jen Craver. I'm an education analyst at Parsec, and I used to do a lot of insight meetings, and I've been able to support some of our partners this year with clarity as well.
Good morning, I'm Liz Brenner. I'm the superintendent of Compass Charter Schools, and we're one of the early adopters of Clarity, so I tell Matt what to do.
I'm Martha Moore. I'm with Parsec. I'll be the LIS for the national office. I am so new that I don't know what I don't know, so I am learning all the things.
Awesome.
I'm Michelle Crippen. I'm Director of Academic Programs for River Islands Academies,
Great.
and I'm here to learn about clarity.
Awesome. Love it. Glad you're here. Back table. How about you guys?
Hi, I'm Debbie Gooding, Executive Director for the Learning Choice Academy at San Diego.
Great.
I'm Otto with CCE.
Oh yeah, great. Awesome. Good job.
Jacqueline Cohn with Stratford School District, and we just picked up the analytics and the real, but we didn't know about clarity.
You will today. You will. So that'll be great. All right. This back table. You guys want? You can group. Also, smart folks helping make this product really good. Sir, I'm not sure you are you? As you guys know, about Tunde, our CEO. All right. So I start just with relationships because this workshop today, we've done a lot of listening. And the purpose of this workshop, as you guys will see, this is an open dialogue time. Clarity is about helping kids. Clarity is about monitoring what we do. Clarity is about making sure that the money we spend helps a kid in a school. So today, this product is developing, right? This isn't fully formed, ready to go, all the bells and whistles are there. This product is growing. So this session is about dialogue around why measurement and why fidelity and implementation can be such a challenge. So today is a time to learn more about the challenges and problems that you face in creating and executing plans, showcase where clarity is today, let you see it, see how it works, and then create dialogue and dream about what clarity could be tomorrow. So I have the really cool opportunity to watch behind the scenes the development process. I get to watch how people listen to schools and then try to transform that into solutions that you really love, and that the software becomes a huge part of saving time and helping kids. So that's the goal today, right? Is to listen, learn, and dream about what could be. Anybody that has a ring cam, when that happens, you're like, oh no, it's me. It's me. So that's our goal today. I just want to start by centering ourselves. This conference, Measuring What We Value, I'm a data person. So right, my PhD's in data, it's in research evaluation methods and stats, in the social sciences. And so what I talked about on the podcast is that, I got into research, I got into stats, and I'd worked through all these regressions and canonical correlates and multivariates, and I thought, this was normal. And then I'd go meet with my faculty friends in hard science, and I would kind of show off my statistics, and they're like, dude, what are you doing? That's nuts. And I'm like, you're a hard scientist, don't you do this? And they're like, no, we just do simple t-tests. Like, did that plot grow more than that plot? And I'm like, the stats you use most are t-tests? And the hard scientists were like, yeah, we control every variable. It's all in a controlled setting. We use a t-test, it's super easy. The stats stuff, the magic is in the design of the experiment, not the stats. But in social science, I started to realize quickly, everything is messy in social science. Measurement is hard. Determining effectiveness, how do you do that? That's not a biomass to be measured. That's not mass that can be captured. So measuring human effectiveness, measuring human satisfaction, measuring how much kids like school, measuring how good you are at your job as a principal, measuring, is this indicator really a measure? We've had so many discussions about that. And the reason there are so many discussions about measurement is because measurement is really hard, especially with humans. Social science measurement is challenging. It is not black and white, it is always gray. And so how can we look at these trends? And a lot of times, like, I'm a data person, and I believe in looking at trends over time. It shows us. How have we operated? What have we been able to achieve? What are the trends in the things that we care about? And how do I bend those trends? That's been my job for the last 15 years, is how do I bend a trend in the direction we want it to bend? As a principal, I thought I was pretty slick. I'm like, oh, this is easy. I'm here, the trend is gonna bend. I worked my tail off, and it went the wrong way. And to this day, I think about that as a principal. I'm like, what in the heck happened? And now, like, the farther I get, the more I realize there's things. And it's around the things we're talking about. Like, I bought things, but did I monitor them? I tried things, but did I know they worked? So I'm looking back, I have a passion for this idea of, like, these are the trends in California right now. So if you go to our dashboard, you look at the educational trends for the state. This is ELA, this is math. We're spending billions of dollars on interventions. We are spending hours of time and effort. Teachers care, principals care. There are very few people that are just going to teach and just don't really care. People are working very hard. But our trends are flat. And this is a problem we've seen for decades. Right? There's a million reasons we could talk about why this trend bends or which way it goes or what are the best impacts to bend those trends. This was a recent study that was shared with us by Rachel. This is the national 8th grade math scores. So they described it as these two phases. There was this phase leading to 2013, and then after 13, the trend has completely changed. And so there's a lot of discussion of, like, why did this happen? So a lot of us are talking about COVID loss, and COVID loss is real, right? Like, if we're measuring ELA and the way this is measuring and all the problems with measuring math, I get it. But if that math measure from NAEP is our measure, you can see that prior to COVID, we had a 13 problem anyway. So what is happening in our school systems? We're spending money, we're working as hard as we can, but we're seeing these trends. And so that question is like the great question for us educators. Like, that's the question we have to solve. That's the question we have to answer. So it just gets back to this idea of, like, getting back to the basics of planning, right? This is the history. This is where we've been. This is where I forecast we will go. But you have to have a reason to believe. You have to do something to believe that that trend will change. Every system is built to get exactly the results that it gets. So you know your trend will not change unless you do something different. And by the way, in the same way, if you do something different that doesn't work, then that also impacts your trend. So this idea of how do we bend the trends in education is the greatest challenge of educators' time right now. Like, we've got to fix these trends and this forecasting ability. What are we choosing to do and why? And do we know it works? Kurt Lewin's one of my favorite people. My PhD, I studied a lot of experiential education. Kurt Lewin said, if you really want to understand something, try to change it. And I feel like that is this learning iterative process. Not just doing, but doing and learning and improving and getting better, right? That is the challenge. So we've jumped into this challenge. Babatunde, you don't have to talk to him for 5 seconds to realize how passionate he is about effectiveness and fidelity, monitoring the impact, monitoring all those things. That is why Eugene originally started this company, is to put data in front of people, to make it easy to consume so we can know and learn, right? So that's what we're going to talk about today, is why is that process challenging and what can we do to move forward. You guys have been sitting a lot. There's been a lot of one-way dialogue. So we're going to open it up for both extroverts and introverts. You don't have to table talk. We're going to do a gallery walk. So all of you guys have markers. We're going to turn on some music, and we're going to converse with each other by writing, right? So you can write on these 3 questions around the wall. Now, this is a conversation. This is dialogue. So if I write something here, you can build off of it. You can agree with it. You can disagree with it. It's a conversation, right? So don't feel bad talking to people on these boards. There's 3 big questions we're going to talk about. What is frustrating about monitoring effectiveness? So what is frustrating for you about choosing an action and making sure the action is working? What are your frustrations? Second question, what are your frustrations around fidelity? You bought a thing. Oh, I love this. We had a hub. This is great. Yeah, wait for the writing. So, what is frustrating about monitoring if like you bought the thing, but then how in the world do you monitor fidelity across a school? I just think about Fresno on the size. How is every classroom? How many schools?
Over 100.
Over 100 schools. How are we making sure that Read 180 is being implemented perfectly the way it was intended in all those schools? And how do we know it's effective and we don't need to buy something else? It's a whole but maybe not you. That's what I would write in the book paper. The one in the corner, we were really proud that we used the corner. Brian and I, we felt very talented when we did this. What tools do you currently use for strategic planning? And then, is your LCAP your strategic plan? We seem to have a lot of tension around, like, what is the LCAP to people? It's something different, so many different ways. So, is your LCAP your strategic plan? Is there ownership there? Is it a compliance document? Like, what is it, right? Those 4 questions, dialogue, music, what questions are there? Awesome. So I should see, everybody should grab a pen or a marker. Everybody should be at a board, writing, discussing, talking with each other. If there's a whole lot of discussion going on without a marker on paper, then we can't capture it. So chat's fine. Try to get those on the board. And then we'll, when it slows down, we'll get together and look at what everybody said. All right, grab a marker and get after it.
Melissa?
What? Oh, what?
The Melissa at Gap. The other Melissa.
Burnham.
Burnham.
No, I would say more in that.
Oh, yes, Ms. Burnham.
I was only up because I was walking across the dog. I was like, yeah, I'm only up
It's lost accreditation. And so, yeah, it's for elementary
Thank you.
slide, there it is. Yes. So I just go on how.
Probably thinking it is.
Oh my God, did you see that? I was like,
I don't think every experiment goes right.
Remember now, like getting Marshall to stop by.
All right, we'll wrap up here in the next couple minutes. Finish up your combos.
Yeah. So, no, and then they have to switch, and it just so anyway, which is a really good deal.
Yeah.
Golly, there was lots of good stuff in there. Sorry, guys. That was awesome. I learned a lot. Okay, so continue that dialogue. What did you guys see? What stood out to you? What conversations on the board? You guys cheated. You were all talking with each other. It's fine. Accept it. There are great conversations that were had. So I was looking at kind of some things, and I have some themes that are coming up, but I'm curious for you guys. What was your experience? What were your conversations about these questions? What kept showing up? What resonated for you in the conversation? Yeah.
I think for me there is something that I noticed. Context matters. Especially like maybe I would talk about frustration about monitoring fidelity. So if you're coming from administrative end of, and use that fidelity, it's very different than a person who's maybe a teacher or a student. So for me, in my understanding, fidelity, I was looking at fidelity as a concept where a teacher has to show loyalty to whatever measurements we're going to use. And so if I do not buy in, I'm not going to be committed to that instrument that we use.
Yeah.
And so lack of commitment can be made.
That was such a, that's one thing that really stood out for me, is this idea of like, we had a conversation about, we can't be generally speaking about goals anymore, it's time to get surgical. That was the conversation, which was written, right? So the conversation was, how do schools see themselves in connection to the big goal of the system? And then how do teachers see themselves? Do they know their role? Do they see themselves connected to the goals as they progress? So that conversation over here was like, and then, you know, I got pushed even a step further as, do students know? I want my Lexile reading, my reading score to go up by this much. Are students aware of the goals? Or, you know, it's like, it just really made me think about where these goals live. That conversation was really rich. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And for sharing on the board. What else? Things that stood out.
So we talked a lot about how you started the conversation is fidelity when we're talking about social science practice. Here we're studying humans behavior. It's really difficult to make it really science. You have to recognize that things can be messy. We're not going to get exact answers. There's usually elements when we're talking about, you know, if it's measurable goals of student learning, if it's anything within education. It's going to be difficult to have fidelity in the way we kind of taught the word, right? Fidelity is showing up every day, it's paying bills every month, what it is, and then we're dealing with human behavior and pandemics and budget changes and just hiring shortages. It's really tough to understand what fidelity means for those areas. And understanding it is a different type of fidelity.
Yeah. We've really struggled with that. Like all of us that are educators at Parsec, that's why you'll see here in a minute, one of the cool things they've built is the ability to say, ask some kids what they think about how this is going. It's like a different kind of data we don't always have. We typically have like, how many curriculum units have been dispersed, right? But we don't ask, has this curriculum been, how have you experienced this curriculum? And like letting teachers and kids tell you and then have that themed. That's been the struggle we've had, is how do you get to fidelity? Because it's a different kind of measure. It's not the CASP score. It's like a in the moment measure. And it's messy. Yeah, thanks for sharing.
I have two reactions after doing this, or thoughts, whatever. The fidelity issue, and this is just a deep-seated thing in me, whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent, but it's hard to criticize or elevate something if you actually haven't done it. So I took my little potty break after I did this, and I thought, you know, maybe I'm gonna take a bicycle into the next staff meeting and ask everyone to vote whether or not the bike works. And I'm first gonna break it somewhere. And people, oh yeah, it works. And some will say, no, it doesn't. But they haven't actually been on the bicycle. And then I'll ask someone to ride it and let them see. Well, you've gotta do it before you can judge whether it's working. And then the other thing is on measuring effectiveness, because we're dealing with human beings, it's very difficult to truly judge when we talk about multiple measures, nice little buzzword, and looking at the whole child. It's very hard to come up with measures that are really measuring a child, say mastery of a standard, but it's not a test. So we have a K-8 standards-based report card, and we have a menu of ways teachers can let kids demonstrate their mastery of that standard, and we're working towards that with high school. High school teachers are kind of resistant, but subjective grades mean nothing. They mean nothing, And in some cases, test scores mean nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, great feedback. This is a little bit of a soapbox for me. I'll ask schools, what responsive data do you have? What data do you have right now today that you can learn from? We don't, it's just hard to get it, we don't have it. I'm like, do you have grades? Oh yeah, but those are terrible. And I'm always like, well, like, let's talk about our grading practices.
And why?
Like, why are you grading? Why do you not trust your grading strategy? If your grading metric is an invalid metric already, then we need to have conversations about your metric. And that's where, I mean, honestly, where these brains are helping us think is like, how can we take the best of the information and the tools and provide using AI? Like, how could we provide suggestions for grading criteria, or how could we create, like, how could we get better at the metric so that it is valid and it is there with us right now? We see the grades, or we see a big picture for us. It was all mastery of standards, so we saw standard percentage, but then the standard percentage wasn't valid because they wouldn't score good on the state test, so our measurement of the standard proficiency wasn't strong. So there's this whole measurement validity that you're talking about that's tough. Just to add, more challenges to why this is hard. Thanks for sharing. I noticed over here it was interesting. Is your LCAP your strategic plan? Yes, 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 part of it. Aligned with our WASP. I'm sure your SIPs is as well. We have this ongoing conversation in California around how does LCAP influence your strategic plan? Is it compliance? Is it a plan that your whole team knows and understands and feels connected to? Like that dynamic is interesting there, your conversation. And then just looking at some of the tools you currently use. So, any other dying last comments? It was great discussions on the board. So with that, when we look at clarity and the mess that just was, like, I mean, this is hard. This is really hard work. I was always taught by my professor that all data is bad data, which is the best available data. You have to live with that. So when we would do research, we'd always be like, this variable's not right, it's not valid. And my professor, who was really wise and a big regression specialist, he would always tell us, every predictor is a bad predictor. It's just the way it is. You gotta find the best of the bad. So I think that's why so much complexity exists in how do we measure effectiveness. So clarity, how do we make this really hard process more clear? I thought it was interesting just looking at the ability to understand a situation, event, or person with clear, coherent insights. I mean, that name really speaks to, wouldn't it be awesome if we could do that? And if a software helped us do that, wouldn't that be great? The capacity to free yourself or others from confusion, I can't spell, I have a PhD, and misunderstandings, right? So let's think differently a little bit. Let's set the stage for this conference is about, measuring what we value. Let's take just a little chunk of time to talk about this, how we measure. I go back to this driver diagram. And, I think we're pretty good at setting goals. Sometimes they're a little squishy. Sometimes it's kind of hard to nail them down. But we pretty much have goals. In California, the state kind of requires them. What are the results we're wanting in those goals? Because these operationalize, whatever this goal is, these numbers make it real. It operationalizes whatever your goal is. You have to know if you accomplished your goal, so it needs to have a metric. These aren't perfect. These are latent variables. This is not an apple that can be measured, right? So you have to have latent variables to try to understand if you achieved your goal. We engage in this often. What I'm finding in 20 years being in educational systems, do we take the goal to the action? What actions do we need to take that will drive this result? Not as strong. You'll hear things like, institute a comprehensive English learning plan with strong curriculum, engaged families, and pizza nights. And like, that is great, perhaps in a document to families, but how surgical are we in what are we spending money on that we believe will achieve moving this metric? Getting more surgical and more iterative with knowing if it works. This data here on the end is the one that I find we use the least. This is data, but it's just not an outcome data point, right? This data is, there are 7 steps to implementing this strategy. How many of them have you implemented, right? To implement take flight correctly, you're supposed to have this many hours. How many hours of PD have you done? That's this. That's helping us monitor if this is being done well so that it will influence this, so that we will achieve this. This side is where we seem to struggle. How well are we implementing and is it working in the moment? And so that's, I think we got to rethink measurement a bit. When we look at clarity, we use this graphic. We can analyze the budget, implementation, and effectiveness more deeply than ever before. So above the surface, how much money did we spend at the end of the year, right? Is it complete or incomplete? Did we do it or did we not do it? And then effectiveness. We look at state level data. How's our CAS scores? Am I red? Am I orange? Am I blue? Green? Right? But if we get below the surface and we start to think more about, from a budget perspective, what was our return on investment? Not just did we spend the money, but did we get a return on the money? Right? Thinking about that in a deeper way. Implementation. Not just did we do it or not, but what did staff think about it? What did students think about it? What did parents think about it? What data do we have about how it was implemented? In terms of effectiveness, are we looking at state level data? Or is there quantitative and qualitative information that gets deeper? Right? So it's taking planning beyond kind of the surface level, what we see, sometimes for compliance or a report, and really trying to take a step deeper and think about why those measures exist. We talk about this at Parsec a lot. I'm on a school board. I'm a president of my local school board. We tell the superintendent all the time, we are okay if you don't get results right away. We just want you to know why. So when we ask that question, are you in a lucky, like there's a lot of schools that live in communities where their scores are just great. You can look at our dashboard, look at the statewide ranking tool. You can find the highest performing schools in the state of California, and then you look at their economic disadvantage percentage and it becomes pretty obvious. There are some schools that are just lucky, right? They can't describe why they have such high scores, they just do. There's this other quadrant where you're losing, this idea where you have low results, you're not getting results, you have a downward trend, you don't really know why. We don't want to be there. We want to live in the quadrant on the right. Learning, you have low results. You're not getting the result you expected, but you have an understanding and you know why, and you know what to do next. And then the best, obviously, is leading. You get high results and you know why you get high results. You have learned, you have strategies that work, and you can replicate those strategies at scale. So it's trying to be as a system in this leading and learning environment so that we're getting that academic return on investment. So we have to start rethinking how we measure. So this cycle of how are we doing? What is the story behind the trend? I showed you trends, right? The lines are flat. What's the story behind that? Who are the partners that have to play a role to turn that curve? We talk about if people in your school system are not connected, if no one knows your LCAP, if nobody feels invested in that document, if people don't know what your goals are, if students don't know what the goals are, then it becomes a little more difficult for the partners to all get together and align. What works to bend the curve? Right? What practices work? And then finally, what is our action plan to bend the curve and putting that into play? That's really the root of where clarity came from. We've been talking about this a little bit with the squad former team, right? Like this idea of what if we could make the LCAP about kids and not compliance? There's a lot about the LCAP, like I help a lot of you with LCAPs. It's laborious, it's hard to do. But at its root, it's asking you to set goals. It's asking you to identify metrics that measure those goals. It's asking you to be strategic about actions. Do I understand it's laden with a lot of other nuances? Yes. But inherently, it's asking you for a plan. So how can you turn that document into something that informs your site? Okay. So we're going to jump in. There's two elements of looking at the platform. First, I'm going to show you a district that we work with now, Santa Rita. We just worked with them. They've put their plan into the tool. So you'll see where it is today. So I think it's really important to know this is where the platform is today with our partners that are helping us build and test the system, right? After that, we're going to talk about dreaming what it could be. Where are these awesome brains thinking and listening to you and thinking this could go? And like, what's your feedback about that? So for those of you that are school leaders, this will be a good chance to see kind of the future, behind the scenes of where it's headed. All right, it's a little weird how this is built over here, but it's fine. Okay, I'm just gonna sit here. It's the only way to do it. So this is the platform as it stands today. You can see the primary front-facing screen is you can see all the goals. These are from Santa Rita's LCAP. Liz has these. A lot of partners, have this added. But I think you can already see what we just talked about, like what's on the wall as frustrations. You can start to see that come alive. Here's the goal. Here's how much money we've allotted to the goal. And here's how much we've spent to date. Is this on track or not? This is how many tasks are related to the goal. How many of them are on track? How many of them are stalled? And how many of them have stopped? Who's in charge? Like what's the due date? And who's owning that goal? So we're starting to metabolize the goal within Clarity. You can see when you come to the goal, it puts that goal at the top and lets us know what is the goal that you're trying to achieve. For Santa Rita, this first goal is all about English language arts. This is about achieving ELA, improvement in ELA. The first thing they've done is they have identified the metrics, the needles they're hoping to move, right? This is the data that matters to them. So how do we connect data and analytics to your goals so that data is not living in isolation, but it's living with the goal that you planned? So you can see here's your assessment, ELA typical growth. You can add a target and establish that you want that to be 75. You can make that target known for the team. For Santa Rita, they specifically had this Haggerty screener. It's really important to them. It's not data that's in our Parsec system, but they manually entered this. This is data important to them that they want to track. And then the major data they want to look at is this trend of ELA distance from standard. So you can, new features now, you can do this by school. So you can look at this by school. You can filter it down in that view. You can set a target. It shows you where you were in the trend, where you are, and then indicates the change in that trend. You can change the view of this. So this starts to be kind of the functionality of the analytics dashboard. So you start to see the data starts to come alive here connected to the goal. The other thing that's important is this is the trend we're trying to bend. They want this trend to go back up. And these are the actions that they are committed to try to do that. So you can see the strategy of the actions connected to the trend they're trying to bend. If I were a leader of this system, I could go in and I could see, oh, BM is in charge of this and they're on track. I obviously need to talk to this clown, whoever's in charge of this is off track. So I can click on this, oh, it's Marshall Baker, he's a loser, he needs to get going. But then I can go in and look at like what work has Marshall done in his action. The other thing within this that's new that is what we just talked about, like all this multiple measure, how do we get to the bottom of it? If I want to know about this action, I can do an evaluation, create an evaluation reel, and it immediately moves me over to Parsec Reel, and it suggests, do you want to monitor implementation or do you want to monitor effectiveness? So if I want to monitor if this action is being implemented well, I can put that in, set a date, And it walks me through, almost. It walks me through helping me create questions. So it uses AI, using our best information about good, solid questions for effectiveness. It creates a rubric and a set of questions for me. Here's questions that we think might work to monitor this action. You can review the assessment. And what this is going to do is once I send this out, it'll collect feedback. So through the real platform, it'll ask your teachers, it'll ask your students, hey, how are you experiencing this curriculum? It'll ask those questions. And the kid can just record a video. This is terrible, I hate it. This is the worst thing that's ever happened to me in my whole entire life. And then it'll come back. Negative sentiment. Like, no, this isn't working. Kids are not digging this. Hey, was this helpful to you? No, I never used that. I think that'll come up a lot, right? Like as a principal, asking a kid, hey, how's the tutoring, whatever, whatever. And they're like, I've never used that once. So then it'll come back to you and say it exceeds, it meets, or it failed in terms of implementation. So it starts to give you information now about how you're implementing or the effectiveness. Okay. There's also budget, which I'll just show you. Calculating academic return on investment. So starting to add how much money have you spent and what has been the result to date. So you can start to identify, was it effectively implemented? Was it effective? How much did you spend? And that informs your decision moving forward on how that action is used. Okay, pause for our school system leaders. Reactions, thoughts, usefulness, problems, yeah.
Is this essentially replacing the DTS LCAP form?
It's a great question. We've had a lot of discussion about that. Right now, this doesn't do the compliance check that DTS would do. It's not generating an LCAP, right? So like that is not today what it does.
But how would it be a cut? This is a lot of information that would be put into the LCAP.
Yes.
The mid-year review, everything could be
Yes.
generated from this. So
Yeah, you'll
is
see.
it a cut and paste sort of a deal?
In just a minute, you'll see like that's a use that we know exists.
Okay.
So you'll see like what if. There is plans to like try to think about what would a feature look like that could do that could pull this forward into narrative around an LCAP. Good question. What else? Yeah.
Is it like AI where you can ask, you generate the question? Like if I'm on ChatGPT or whatever?
Yeah, so Real does that, right? So Real looks at the text in your action and it reads your action and it says, here's questions we would suggest that's generated from AI. What you'll see in a minute is what we hope for the future is that there is a lot of AI agent integration where you can ask clarity questions and it can help you respond to what you're needing to do. So that's a huge part of like what our hope is for it moving forward, is for you to ask it. Identify 3 trends that need my attention, and it can help. That's the idea, is to get to that, helping you make those, or help me identify actions that are not being implemented well, and it can help find those, and starts to take away some of that cumbersome work.
Given the current information, what is the one that's giving you the biggest impact?
Yep. Awesome. You've been voluntold.
Yeah, because like people who know that I'm very passionate about this work, I'm trying to like calm myself here. But like the part that you just shared was critical. And I've done a lot of LCAP work, Kristen, and the LCAP, the spirit of it is great, but it fails in the sense of it's a document, right? It's a Word document that you have to fill out. And it's very, very challenging to understand, especially with the nuances of different budget lines that you have, supplemental concentration, your grants, etc. What's really driving that goal that you put in, right? And then how do you determine
like if it's actually doing what you were hoping it would do. Right? And frankly, what most people do is just make stuff up in that part of the LCAP, unfortunately, because it's like you don't really know.
And they wait until the end of the year where there's just these large end-of-year indicators to really figure that out.
Yeah.
And then you're almost in the dark throughout the year, and you're hoping that something is happening to get to the end. How do we know in real time how it's going? And then what Paul and I were talking about is that there is this waterfall effect of yes, we can write our LCAP and we have our goals. And so yes, does our board and our chiefs never know what needs to get done? Yes. But then does that trickle down to that specific site? Does that site know their role and what they need to do to make that happen? That trickles down the waterfall to that classroom. Does that teacher really know how many points they need to move to get there? And then the individual students, because we have to respect them enough to understand that they have agency over their education and they can get all these things. Do they know what they need to do on their state to get to that goal? But how does everyone have kind of collective ownership? But I do love in the tool because it does seem like there is this ability to keep kind of filtering down. We're having aspirations to get there, right? So that we can really see the picture.
Right.
Filter all the way down from high level, classroom, regions, students, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, and this idea of how can we let the LCAP be aligned to what we're doing, and how can the LCAP move out of the Word document into Clarity and become actionable and usable and meaningful? And then how can Clarity then move it back to that document, right? Wouldn't that be great? Take this document we don't care about, but we're aligned to it. We know it's a document. We know we have to get it done. We don't know yet. But what if Clarity was collecting this information over 3 years of like what actions have you been working on and it's pulling text over that's informed by the past using AI, and then it allows you to operate with the plan. And then when you're done, you can say, oh, by the way, I need a Word document compliance thing again. And it can say, you bet, here's a draft. You're like, wouldn't that be great?
Yeah, I can say too, just to your point about the how often you look at it, you can set individual cadence checks for the actions, and that's been really helpful to my team because you do tend to set it and forget it, right? Like oh yeah, that's in the LCAP somewhere. And so, and my directors set their own cadence because they know how often, I mean, some things only happen twice a year, so then you know that's when you're going to enter it, but some of them are entering things more often. And what it does is it provides this space for them to go in and put in their updates. And then when I go back and look at it, like I just had to do my mid-year because my board meets in January, so my mid-year's due in January. And I just went into Clarity and I could see all the updates on what was actually happening. Like, oh, we implemented this thing, we've seen this growth. And then so it becomes kind of the living document that you're working in throughout the year, and you're entering your measurements. And before we had because I have 3 schools, we had 3 Google documents, and then we had multiple spreadsheets that people were putting in for all the different things. So it takes away kind of all of that noise. And my directors all have transparency. A lot of them contribute to different, multiple people contribute to goals, and so they can all go in and put in updates. So it's just been the really good kind of working document for us right now. And yes, the first thing I was like, and when can I export this to DTS? Because I had to do all that manually, but so it really does help with kind of keeping it at the forefront and making it more meaningful because you're entering things in real time.
Yeah.
Can this be used also for WASP?
Yes. You can have multiple plans.
Yeah, because those really
Yeah.
get one and done WASP.
Yeah. So within Clarity right now, you can create a second plan. So you can have your LCAP plan, and you can create a WASP plan, you could create a CIPSA plan. And the thing we've been talking about a lot is how do you connect those, since CIPSA feeds up into the LCAP, how does that work? But right now you can create separate plans. Okay, in the name of time, I also want you guys to just be able to see computer tried to turn off. So a peek into the future. Again, this is dreaming. This is people thinking about what could the solution look like, right? So it's also interesting to get y'all's feedback on, if you want to see, this is kind of a concept or an idea, just a play. This is playing around. What could this look like? If you want to scan that QR code, you could see kind of the idea of the dream of what this could do. And I'm going to show you some of those elements. Everybody that wants a chance. this document talks about 4 things, as we dreamed about like what clarity could be. I want to show you these people in the room that are with squad formers, the way they think and help connect your needs to the product. I saw this and got really excited, just to dream. Like, just imagine, like, what if this existed, right? Right now, the onboarding, these new things, like a user onboarding journey to help you. Like, we worked with Liz to update your LCAP and get it all in Santa Rita. We, flew all the way to Santa Rita to get the LCAP ingested. So imagine if the onboarding had helped build your LCAP in Clarity. And imagine if there was an agent that would help you, an AI agent that would help you take the stress and the work out of building the LCAP. It would help you build your metric dashboard and import your existing LCAP. Then from a data perspective, currently, we manually import your data, we consolidate it, but what if there was this data integration with common existing sources? Your data is there, it's automated, it moves forward to analytics. So within Clarity, while you're choosing metrics and while you're planning, what if there was an opportunity to work with an AI agent to help you build the data, to help you demonstrate different looks of how you want to see the data, right? You could ask AI, like in my mind, I could imagine Liz could say, please set a metric on ELA DFS specific to San Diego with a target of 73%. And it can produce that. So increasing our analytics ability and having AI agents that can help you interpret and think about and develop insights from data. And then moving into a world where in Clarity, it's helping you create stronger strategic plans with better language. There's an AI agent that helps ensure that actions are viable. We know what actions are working. We know what actions aren't working from data. How could we inform like what action you're choosing if that was available? A world where it provided summaries of what's happening. So you'll see here in a second example of, please give me a summary of my 3 priority actions and their implementation effectiveness. You bet, here's a summary, download it. So thinking about how we can make this less about compliance, taking time off your plate on some of those things, providing insights that can help move forward and monitor some of your elements. AI agent calculating AORI. All agent automates. Imagine if there was an agent that would build an LCAP that was aligned to a CIPSA that had then the same language in the WASC. Like imagine if there was an ability for AI to pull from the work you were doing and try to help you put that language, move it forward into those plans. And then with Real, an AI agent that captures the routes and stakeholder feedback for analysis and action. So as we, the future of Clarity, we're looking at, it's a platform where you've got an inbox. Hey, here's the assignments you have. Hey, here's the data that's important. Hey, here are some actions that are being neglected, right? Hey, here's some things, like let's get this into action. And then just even thinking about here, if Clarity were to have the Parsec AI, you could ask questions. Show me all the at-risk goals or actions. Show me the student performance by county. So having this ability to take the work out of some of those elements. You can see here the Parsec AI ability, perhaps a feature could be there to, hey, thanks for this data, can I have this in a CSV file? I'd like it in this way, I'd like it in like this is what I need. So the ability, dreaming about how could AI and AI agents be helpful in taking some of the work out of this sometimes laborious process. You can see here the overall goal. AI is producing insights. Hey, here's a 7% increase in an area that you haven't had an increase before, right? Having AI insights and then progression of those actions. So as you see those mock-ups, final conversation, thoughts on that dreamy direction of what this could be, reactions. Eugene, you're on. I'm just kidding. Yes, Eugene.
I was going to blurt it out anyway. This is great. I mean, this is like the future. I think there's tremendous value in this. And since we're in marketing together, and the kind of work that we're doing, this is still sort of working in isolation, right?
but can you speak about how, what we're doing in terms of like ingesting 1,300 LCAPs and parsing that and synthesizing that and actually training a model using the 1,300 LCAPs?
Yeah.
And how that opens the door to now, you're not just like trying to fine tune your current LCAP, but learning from the best of the best so that you can one day become the best of the best.
Yeah.
Stay tuned.
That was an easy answer.
Yeah.
Well, we have so much information in statewide LCAPs. And you guys know your LCAPs have baseline data. It tells you, where are you? It tells you the data right now. You're at 23% and we're trying to get to 35%. So right now, Eugene's working on ingesting those LCAPs statewide, and then you'll start to have information from publicly available data. Which districts are hitting their year 1, year 2, and year 3 benchmarks, and what action did they use? Summarize the actions that have seen effective growth. So Eugene's work has been really pulling from the LCAPs to help us learn quickly from the massive amounts of data in the LCAPs, which is what we're all about, is iterating, figuring out what works, and then scaling that. So that work will also help scale some of those. Yes, Eugene.
And we can't assume that school systems are good at everything, right? So with this ingestion, we're going to find that school systems are like really good with English learners. This school system, overall, they might not be good on the California School Dashboard, but they're really excelling with students with disabilities. And that's where the LCAP shines.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm curious for those in the room who just saw that there's all these opportunities for AI agents to help with certain tasks. If anyone felt particularly excited about one of those, maybe more than the other, or less excited about one. Just curious if there were thoughts around, maybe you could pull that back up.
Yeah.
The dreaming slide. There were 4 or 5 different areas where a future AI might help. What sounds exciting to those of you in the room that might use this?
So, one thing I think you guys talk about similar counties. One of the things I think we need to do for myself, we're a small school district. There's very few school districts that look like Golden Valley and Central Valley. And so I would more so drill down to county with similar schools.
Yeah.
We use a similar school rank, but if you're looking at common practices and common budgets and common generalities of actions, to me is, and I got the team on the right over here that works on this, we need to see similar schools. Because Golden Valley doesn't have, we're the lowest funded school district in Central Valley per student. But yet we're looked at regardless if we're small or large or middle class or not. And so we're looking at practices through the LCAP. We're looking at how to drill down with actions. That similar school is so important for us because then we can see true apples for apples and see what's being successful and compare us where we're being successful. So as you guys are building this project, that is powerful, more so than counting. And I don't know the work that would be in front of you for that, but that would be a very powerful piece of the project. When I saw the analytics, it's like, they can do that, and I can see what other LCAPs are doing for similar schools. That'd be great.
Eugene is happy.
That's actually very realistic to do.
Would be so helpful for us to evaluate where we're at and also
Well, and it just goes back to like, I look at the corporate world and I look at how they use data across different stores, or they use that data to inform overall. But like we in school systems, maybe school systems everywhere. But then how could you catalyze the learning, from multiple people that are running iterations? It's always nice to know who is fixing who has something that's working for this, and to be able to have that information.
That's not to say that President Unified, doesn't have great things that Golden Valley can bring in, but it really does bring
the school
that
context.
helps.
One question I do have for you, Chris, is when you say school, are you talking about at that STA level, or do you mean similar district size?
I think it's both, right? As we look at like Stone Creek, for example, and we look at Webster, or if we're looking at our district goals and as that trickles down to what we're doing at district level of support, I think it's both. I think we want to be able to really find out.
And I'm curious too, to the point, from this agent perspective, you have agents that can analyze your data for you. You have agents that can build your state compliance reports for you, and you have agents that can monitor your strategy and your effectiveness and like task manage for you. Which of those stand out to you most?
Maybe ongoing task management, because if we lose sight of the little things, even every week, we're going to end up in a pickle at the end. So the reports won't mean a whole lot. And with task management on a regular basis on the short term, adjustments can be made in a timely manner when we can see things are not going well, or a person isn't upholding their part or something like that, rather than let it be a disaster at the end.
Can you give me an example, just of like how that normally is kind of working?
Well, if I think about, so something that's always on my mind right now is our WASP goals. LCAP is of course extremely important, but we have a goal for our high school teachers to come up with some sort of uniformity of grading, so that if you see that little Johnny has a B in math in this class, the B will mean somewhat the same thing. It's predictable in meaning to this other class, instead of the grades being so insanely subjective and they end up meaning absolutely nothing. So, but it's something that needs to be kept up on. It needs to be developed little by little over time, and frankly, it's just not happening. So, does that make any sense?
It does. It does.
You guys, this has been awesome. The dialogue's been great. Having the diversity of people in the room has been great. I felt like this was much more about like, okay, let's put our working clothes on and let's figure some stuff out. It felt like that. But I think it's just important to know, like right now for Liz and for partners that are using it, Liz has been incredibly great about being like, this graph, I had to recreate your graph. And I think that like today, Clarity is moving to a place where the first stage is strong goals, strong actions, strong accountability, names attached, and then the metrics showing up really well. That's like the first line of sight people can expect. And then as this grows, this wish list, y'all's voice is really important in helping us prioritize what's the most important, what's the biggest pain point you have, and which of these can be resolved with software first. So you guys play a big role in those decisions. But I appreciate everyone's dialogue today. I appreciate squad formers just being here, listening and engaging, and it was a really good conversation all around. School partners are going to have to help us make sure the problem is solved. So I appreciate all the dialogue today. All right, that is our time. Thanks everybody. You can take some time.